Hello again, everyone. Welcome into Inside Sports. I'm Mark Keller. We are so happy to have you with us this week. We've had the feel of winter for a few weeks, and now it's starting to look like winter outside. A little bit of snow on the ground, maybe a little more coming this weekend. But that's kind of the way we're coming at you with the show this season. We gave you a feel of the winter season last week, and now this week we'll give you a little bit of a closer look. We have a lot of basketball to talk about this week. First up, we'll have Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy in to talk about boys hoops, including big victories by North Hagerstown and St. Maria Goretti last week. Bob Parcelletti will drop by to talk girls basketball and look at some of the top players in the area who put up big scoring numbers, but do so much more than that in leading their teams. And then our friend Joel Huffer will join Bob and me to talk about the recent passing of local icon Dwight Scott and the impact he had on Washington County sports and, more specifically, the entire South County community. We'll also take a look at the social media circuit to see what's been happening the last few days and tell you how you can be part of the show by tagging us on Twitter and more. Lots to talk about this week, so let's get it going. Inside Sports starts right after this break.
When you elevate nurses, you reduce an entire town's blood pressure. Specialized medical training means top nurses, top care. Meritus. Healthcare transformed. How do you give a patient healthier healthcare? Give her doctor, nurse, PA, and therapist the same health record. Introducing electronic health records. One patient, one record, one click. Meritus. Healthcare transformed.
For the last 2 years of my education, I was going to work full-time, school full-time, and raising 2 young children by myself. I think that anybody who's desiring to continue their education or to advance their career, I think that USMH provides convenient location, affordable pricing, and again, they have instructors that really care about sending their students off with the experience and the education that they need to succeed.
When it comes to hearing loss, who will be taking care of you? Audiologist Dr. Karen Hamilton is Hagerstown's hearing doctor, working to improve the quality of life for those with hearing loss. At Audiology Services, Dr. Hamilton focuses on evaluation and diagnosis to provide solutions for treating hearing loss. Using the latest technology, she programs hearing aids to meet your unique needs and ensures they fit properly and comfortably. Audiology Services participates with most insurance companies and will check benefits and file claims on your behalf. Dr. Hamilton and her team also serve the community through Hagerstown Hearing, which focuses on providing crystal clear sound in places such as theaters, churches, offices, and homes. Hagerstown Hearing installs looping systems that allows those with hearing loss to enjoy speech clarity and noise reduction, providing an experience like never before. To learn more about Audiology Services and Hagerstown Hearing, call 301-790-3300. Audiology Services and Hagerstown Hearing, providing crystal clear sound.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We're going to start out today talking about some boys basketball. We're in Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy. Kevin, a couple big wins from teams this week, starting with one that we haven't seen in a while, North Hagerstown getting a win over Williamsport this past week.
Yeah, it had been 7 years. Ryan Grable had never lost since he took over at Williamsport to North, and that was 2 games every year. So this was a long extended streak, and it was a streak that was odd because they were not blowout wins. I mean, Williamsport had found a way to win a lot of those games by just a couple of points. So, North was overdue, and they were really happy, and they played really hard and played well.
You talked about big games from Ryan Sox and John Hardman. Sox in particular has really been coming on in the scoring race, so to speak, here in Washington County lately. Had a couple big games. Yeah,
it's come out of nowhere because he was a guy that basically set screens last year. He hardly ever took any shots. He's got a load of confidence now. He likes taking the ball to the basket. He doesn't have a lot of range in his shot, but he hit a big shot with 1:35 left, and then he hit 2 free throws. He's standing at the free throw line. He's got a 44% shooting percentage, and he knocked down 2. So he's become a clutch guy. He was big in the win the previous week over South. So he's just he's having a great senior year, and it's really fun to see a guy kind of blossom when you think maybe you figured out his career, and here he's got another gear, it looks like.
What are you seeing from North Hagerstown? what's been the biggest difference in kind of them really improving to this point this season?
It's funny because it's almost like they've got fewer players this year, and the rotation being tighter kind of suits their chemistry, I think. I think you can get more cohesion when you have fewer players on the court. Last year they had 6 really good guards, and they rotated them in, and it just took a while to get a good balance on the court. And with fewer players, sometimes it's a better mix, and I think that's what. And those players that they're putting on the floor are pretty strong too. When you consider Christian Teague, the best public school center easily in the county, and Lally Richards has a lot of talent. He's real explosive. He had sore ankle the other night against Williamsport, but he's quite a player that can make kind of do things with the ball that a lot of other players can't.
There's big things happening for the Hubs out in the north end of town. Also out in the north end of town, you got St. Maria Goretti, who had a huge win this weekend over Mount St. Joe's. Kind of easy, unexpected, right? Yeah,
Mount St. Joe's had kind of had their number the last time they had Goretti had beaten them. It was Clarence, Elijah Clarence. Everybody remembers him and hitting the big shot the first time that he did that year. He had 3 shots inside the final second to win games that year, and that was the first big one that he hit and kind of put them on on the radar, national radar, really, as a team to get ranked nationally. But that was a huge win for Goretti. Abdu Simbila, their 6'8" center, he just had a monster game, especially considering the competition. 20 points, 16 rebounds, 7 blocks. He's a Penn State commit, and he's a guy that looks like he could play football for Penn State. He's got shoulders out to here. He's really he's got a lot of upside, because I think he's just scratching the surface of what he can be.
Talk about how big a win that was for St. Maria Goretti. Mount St. Joe's ranked number 1 in the Baltimore Sun poll coming into that game, and the Gales now in a 3-way tie atop the BCL, and they got a big game coming up next week, right?
Yeah, against St. Francis, the other team that's tied with them. St. Francis beat Goretti, I think it was 57-53, a tight game in Baltimore. So Goretti will get them at home this time, and Goretti looks like they've progressed a lot throughout the season. Part of that is Primožek Golik, their guy from Poland, 6'4" swingman. He's back and he's healthy and he's really contributing, and he adds a lot to that team.
We talked last week about a lot of teams in the county that have improved, but one that's really come on here is Hancock. Done something they haven't done in 7 years, right?
Yeah, have a 3-game winning streak. It's a modest accomplishment, but when you're the second smallest basketball playing school in the state, I mean that's a big deal. They've now won 6 games. They haven't done that in a season in a long time. They've only got 7 players. The night I went and saw them last year, one guy was out with the flu, but they're still small in numbers. But those kids are really playing well together. I think the game I saw, a win over Faith Christian, that wasn't even close. Probably 75% of their baskets were assisted. Just really good ball movement, impressive cohesion that they have now.
They have a big game coming up against Clear Spring in facing the top scorer in the county in Mike Myers.
Yeah, they haven't beaten Clear Spring in eons. I'd have to go over to Tim Kelby to find out exactly when the last time that happened, because he knows all that stuff. But it's been at least 10 years and probably more than 25 games that Clear Spring has beaten Hancock. But they might have a chance in this one. It'll be interesting to see Thursday night.
Williamsport, coming off that loss to North, they get a chance at revenge against Middletown, a team that beat them early on in the season, back in Week 1. How have the Wildcats improved since that Week 1 loss to Middletown?
They've kind of figured things out. I didn't see either of the losses early in the year, but it looks like they're incorporating their big men into the offense better. A.J. Norris and Raekwon Becks have gotten involved in the offense, and that just helped their balance out. They don't have a lot of depth. That's something that's hurt them. And Lincoln Ball and Caleb Bowers have really kind of carried the team and scoring-wise. And I think those 4 players have gotten a better feel for each other. They won 8 straight until losing to North on Friday of last week. So I think they're anxious to see this game and then Tuesdays at Oakdale, which will have already happened by the time this airs. But They want to see what they can do against those two teams, losing to them their first 2 games this season.
And then a big game coming up this week for North Hagerstown on Friday as they play down at Thomas Johnson, a perennial power, coming on strong again. Big happenings in the CMC for that one, right?
Yeah, TJ has only lost 1 game in 2 years in the CMC Spires, and that was to North back last month. They were without their point guard. TJ was Richard Rivas, who was out with the flu, and he's a huge difference maker for them. So he's back, of course, and it'll be interesting to see if North can hang with them. I wouldn't doubt that North can do that because they've been really good here lately, especially in the big games.
Kevin, thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll have Bob Parsoletti talking girls basketball after the break.
We've been coming to Rick's for about 3 or 4 years. The staff at Rick's is wonderful.
It is the Cheers of Hagerstown.
Everybody knows your name.
They've actually become a lot of our friends.
Treat you like family. They know you by name.
It's nice to be able to go somewhere as quality as this that's not a chain restaurant.
The food is unique. They get creative. Yeah. It's fresh food.
And they make great drinks.
The word is in. Local, casual, and always epic. That's Rick's Cafe.
If you add it up, 12 spots a year for 25 years, close to 300 different commercials I've used Antietam Cable Production for. In terms of the experience with the production department, the truth is, we've become friends because we've done it so often. The staff is very, very professional. They make it easy for me to do the spot. That's the biggest thing. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And it works. It brings people to the dealership. And that's all I can ask.
Welcome back into Inside Sports, switching gears now from boys to girls basketball. We bring in Herald Mail insider Bob Parsoletti. Bob, you saw Clear Spring and Boonesboro play last week up at down at Boonesboro, I should say, and one that was all Boonesboro. Got the running clock in the fourth quarter. Made for a quick night for you, I guess.
Quicker than others sometimes. Boonesboro came out and they just kind of took control early. I think they got Clear Spring playing at a faster pace than they really want to play. A lot of Boonesboro's defense, they got a lot of steals around the half-court mark and, above the key, which, makes it tough to score for Clear Spring, but really leaves it open. And the open floor was Boonesboro's friend. Caitlin Rogers really excels in a situation like that. Steals and going for the hoops, and she releases easily when she knows the defense is going to come up with the ball and everything. So I think they just outmanned them or outran them basically with tempo and took away. They scored I think it was the first 8 points or 10 points, and they were up by 21-2 at the end of the first quarter. So I mean, it was basically done there.
Yeah, you mentioned Caitlin Rogers, and this kind of goes hand in hand with a notebook you wrote recently, and talking about players on the girls' side who do a lot of scoring for their teams, but they also do so much more. And you mentioned Caitlin Rogers in that notebook. Kind of talk about that if you would.
Well, a lot of basketball nowadays, especially if you watch the NBA. They talk. Everybody's got to have 3 big players, to do something. That's pretty rare in high school, and it's pretty even rarer in girls' high school basketball. So I mean, I think if you want to go to a comparison, girls' basketball has got to be more like the Michael Jordan era. He had players around him, and he made them better. He scored all his points, but he got passes, he got assists, he got steals. He did all the things that they needed to do to be an all-round player for them to win. And he excelled while doing that. I mean, he was the man. And I think that's a little bit of the philosophy some of these schools have to take. I mean, you got about 3 or 4 schools that have multiple layers of talent. I think you go to Goretti and St. James, they have a lot of starters, a lot of girls back from last year. You go to Smithsburg, who's got basically their whole team back, and Then you go up to Hancock, and they have like 2 girls in Chloe Stotler and Sarah Kearns. They're probably, better players in the county, but their supporting cast is really good too. So there's 4 schools that, have that, but then the rest of them just have to find a way to do it. And,
right.
Here it comes.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Rogers in there. You also mentioned with Smithsburg and somebody who missed a lot of time last year but is back this year in Ashley Davis, who's kind of fits that mold as well, where she does a little bit of everything for the Leopards.
Well, they're pretty balanced. Bailey Grove has done a great job inside. She gets to the foul line, she rebounds, and she scores. And Heather Barnes is an outside shooter, and then they have any number of other girls that can shoot from the outside. But the thing that Davis does, and the few times I've seen her, she distributes the ball, she gets her shots, but she's not really looking for them. They come to her. She passes the ball well, and she's rebounded some. And with all that, she helps them, helps everybody to be better. They were good last year. They did fine. I mean, they didn't have a great record, but they did fine. They got to the section final and everything like that. But she's like an added thing or added piece that really makes them a little tougher.
Another person you've mentioned in past episodes here, Madison Mertz at North Hagerstown, and again, sort of fitting that mold of a do-everything person for the Hubs.
Well, she's one of them that has a team that, has a lot of young players and a lot of players that really don't have a total talent or a total grasp to do a lot of things. And she has ability. She steals the ball and gets easy baskets, which they need. She can shoot from the outside. But her ability to rebound out of the guard position and her ability to pass the ball to some of the players underneath and, create some openings for the other players to get in really helps North. North's already won more games than they won last year. And, she's a big piece of the reason why.
And then finally you have at Heritage Academy, Michaela Hoy, who just went over the 1,500 point mark for her career there. Again, doing a little bit of everything for Heritage.
This is a little different year for her because she's in her senior year and she doesn't have a lot of the people who've helped them in the past. Some of the, she's had 3 players there over the past 2 years graduate. They were basically, she was the part that helped. Mm-hmm. Now she's the part that's doing the scoring, and she did this all. It was just a little more balanced when in years past. Now she's doing the scoring. She has to do a little scoring. They took her off the point and put her on a wing, just like they did like Rogers is over at Boonesboro, trying to take some of the responsibility off of her, trying to let her get around so that she can do things without, and probably putting them at a point where nobody, really guards the wing as much as they guard the point guard, So she swoops in and she does a lot of things, but she gets the steals. She passes the ball. She tries real hard to incorporate everybody else into the game. They have a lot of girls underneath the basket that can rebound a little bit to keep things alive, and she tries to reward them with shots. So, and it's worked. Up until Friday, I can't remember the record right now, but they were 8-1.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll hear those names when it comes time for all county teams later in the season. So, Bob, stay with us. We're going to be joined by Joel Huffer here in just a minute to talk about Dwight Scott and his impact on Washington County. Stay with us.
Frostburg's program at USMH was definitely closer to home, allowed me to stay at home while I had the opportunity to substitute in Washington County Public Schools. The scholarships at USMH really allowed me to walk out, being able to pay it off much more quickly and being able to pursue my graduate degree at a quicker rate. I would say to anyone considering USMH, allows you to build better relationships in the community and something that's definitely a great opportunity to pursue and leads to a better career.
We've been coming to Rick's for about 3 or 4 years. The staff at Rick's is wonderful.
It is the Cheers of Hagerstown.
Everybody knows your name.
They've actually become a lot of our friends.
Treat you like family. They know you by name.
It's nice to be able to go somewhere as quality as this that's not a chain restaurant.
The food is unique. They get creative. Yeah. It's fresh food.
And they make great drinks.
The word is in. Local, casual, and always epic. That's Rick's Cafe.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. As we talked about last week briefly, We lost an icon in the sports world here in Washington County just before Christmas when Dwight Scott passed away, longtime Boonesboro football and track and running coach down there. We're going to talk about the impact that Coach Scott had on the Boonesboro community and the Washington County community as a whole during his life here in the county. Bob Parcelletti still with us, joined now also by Joel Huffer, former Herald Mail sports writer and a Boonesboro graduate as well, and ran for Coach Scott down there. And just run down some of Coach Scott's numbers in football. He 95 wins, 4th all-time in Washington County, and 17 full seasons as Boonesboro's football coach. Only had 2 winning seasons in his first 8 years down there, but he finished with 9 straight winning seasons. 2 straight unbeaten seasons thrown in there as well, and a 20-game winning streak as well. And Bob, you have to think he probably would have been the coach there a little bit longer if things hadn't a little kind of twist of fate. He had taken a job and accepted a job at North Hagerstown, and that didn't kind of pan out. And he just kind of put his focus into running after that at Boonesboro.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe that loss might be everybody else's gain too, in a way, because I mean, he had a big impact on a lot of kids because of just getting them to go out and run. And I guess he was Richard Simmons before Richard Simmons came along around here.
Okay, had quite an impact, and Joel, I know, can speak to that. And Joel wrote a great column in the Herald Mail for us after Coach Scott's passing. And Joel, I wanted to just share your story of how you kind of got, you were an athlete at Boonesboro, but not a runner, but somehow Coach Scott recruited you to run on the cross-country team. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, basically a baseball and basketball player for my first 3 years, but he knew I didn't play football. And so he came to me before my senior year and actually recruited me and another teammate of mine and said, look, I'll make you guys this deal. You know, I know you're not football players. I know you like to play basketball, pick up, you know, in the fall. He said, but I'd like you to come out and run cross country. And he said, if you run cross country for me, come to practices, come to the meets, you know, I'll cut you loose 2 days a week so you guys can play pickup basketball. So I wasn't a runner, you know, other than around the bases and up and down the court, you know. So it was a challenge for me, you know, and I think he knew that. I think he knew there were going to be days where I wanted to quit, days where I thought, boy, this might not have been the best decision I made. But, you know, we made friendships and made a bond with our teammates and really, you know, responded to his leadership and his coaching and, you know, struggled some days. And there were days where I thought, yeah, this was probably a bad decision. But, you know, in the end, I ended up, you know, my senior year not playing baseball and running track. The good news is, you know, track has shorter events, you know, and I was able to you know, be a sprinter and not a distance runner. But it was that sense of family, that sense of camaraderie, that, you know, the number one runner, you know, was just as, you know, wasn't any more important to him than the last runner. You know, I mean, there were people who ran for him for 4 years who always ran the B races, you know, and to do that, I think says a lot how they felt about Coach, how they felt about his leadership, you know, and how they felt about their teammates. You know, he instilled that bond, that togetherness, that commitment to one another. And I think that was a message that a lot of people, you know, they took that into life. A lot of his former runners became coaches and teachers and, you know, took that model that he had, you know, presented to them and carried it throughout life.
Yeah. Bob, I think that kind of went both ways. That went that same way for Coach Scott as well, because even though he wasn't an official football coach at Boonesboro, once he stepped away from it, he was still involved with the team right up until the end.
Yeah, Coach Clayton Anders told me that he was breaking down films and scouting for him, getting you know, a head start for the next week. So, I mean, he stayed involved. I mean, that, you know, sports may have been, you could say it was his life, but I think over sports was people, you know. And, you know, I think he basically set a tradition that people have carried on, and that's something that's huge. I mean, you figure they have the one coach in between Clayton and Coach Scott, but they've all been successful. Clayton's taken probably the same kind of values that Coach Scott instilled and took them to a higher level, you know, and changed with the different eras in that. So, I mean, to be able to apply that and stay successful says a lot, and it says a lot about the guy that set it up.
Well, Joel, no less than Dennis Fry, a noted historian here in Washington County, said this about Coach Scott. There's no person in the 250-year history of the Boonsboro area who touched more people, changed more people, and cared about more people than Dwight Scott. I say that as a professional historian who knows the history of the Boonsboro region. You know a little bit about the Boonsboro region as well. Talk about that statement.
Well, I've always thought, here was a guy who, was as much a part of Boonsboro as anybody who was born there and grew up there. He didn't move there till, he was in his 30s. He was a young man, teaching. But he spent 50 years, associated with that school and that community. A teacher, a coach, an athletic director. After he retired, he continued for another decade as a volunteer coach. I just think he's one of those people who, became part of the community because of so much he gave to the people there. I always said if he had wanted to, in his retirement, he probably could have put his name on the ballot for city council or mayor and been elected. And that's not a popularity contest. I think that would have been a good statement, as to the level of respect that he commanded, because people knew he was committed. He cared about every student. Not just his athletes, but I'm sure there are students in the school who had him as a PE teacher who would tell you a great Coach Scott story.
Yeah. Well, Joel, Bob, thanks a bunch for your thoughts on Coach Scott. Stay with us. More to come here on Inside Sports after the break.
Hit it, Dolly. Move or die. Bring it on, One-Eyed Willie. Your bullets, they're really fast. You want to fight for what's right? Sometimes you have to fight dirty.
Tell me they got that in slow motion.
Deadpool 2. Digital customers, tune to Channel 1 to get started.
For the last 2 years of my education, I was going to work full-time, school full-time, and raising 2 young children by myself. I think that anybody who's desiring to continue their education or to advance their career, I think that USMH provides convenient location, affordable pricing, and again, they have instructors that really care about sending their students off with the experience and the education that they need to succeed.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We'll close out today's show with our social media segment as we take a peek at what people have been talking about on Twitter and Facebook over the last few days here in the area. There's never a shortage of snow pictures on the web when a winter storm passes through the area, and some local schools got in on that action after Monday's delayed opening in Washington County. St. James School shared a few photos of its gorgeous campus on Twitter, enjoying a beautiful snowy day at SJS, hashtag only at SJS, and that is the Twitter handle as well, at only at SJS. The South Hagerstown football program at SHHS Rebels FB posted a couple photos as well, tweeting "Snow place like home," hashtag Rebels Nation. And the Williamsport football program at Williamsport FB tweeted this photo of some team members together after school, maybe after a pickup game in the snow. One thing's for sure, there are some Williamsport moms not thrilled to see their sons sitting in the snow in short-sleeve shirts. Now, this isn't a snow post, but it does bring up football, and it does bring up a topic we'll discuss on next week's show. This comes from the North Hagerstown football program at Hubs_football, and it shows the Hubs' tentative 2019 schedule with this disclaimer. The MPSSAA will soon vote on the proposed 9-game regular season schedule, with Week 10 being either a regional playoff game for the top 8 seeds per region or a non-playoff game for teams not qualifying for playoffs against another regional team. So the proposal is to double the number of teams to make the postseason from 4 to 8 in each region by shortening the regular season from 10 games to 9. But look closer at that schedule and see who the Hubs could open the 2019 season with. South Hagerstown, the rivalry game that has been the regular season finale for 58 years, could become the season opener. Not quite sure how I feel about that. Washington County Supervisor of Athletics Eric Michael at WCPS Athletics was at the Rebel Duels at South Hagerstown last Friday and tweeted about the action there. 5 mats going at the Rebel Duels. South Hagerstown is a busy place tonight. It was a busy place all weekend, but it produced a great showing for Washington County as Williamsport emerged victorious by winning all 10 of its duels. Boonsboro finished second, and the host Rebels were third. If you're heading out to a game or a meet or a match, remember to reach out to us or tag us on social media and let us know about all the cool stuff that happens before, during, and after the games or events. On Twitter, we are at Inside Sports OL. On Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, it's at Inside Sports Now. Whether it's a picture, a video, or even a meme, we want to see it. If you do that, we could include your social media post in this segment next week. That's all the time we have for this week on Inside Sports. Thanks to Kevin Dunleavy, Bob Parsoletti, and Joel Huffer for being here, and thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next week on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your